And just like that, ladies and gentlemen, please allow me to welcome you just one more time to a stories written by a current prisoner. Today's topic is an interesting one. We're going to go ahead and talk about one of the most influential, one of the most powerful, one of the most violent of individuals that has ever walked the face of this earth. We're talking about a person that has controlled vast parts of Southern California for decades. Now, the person I'm referring to is, of course, Sleepy, an alleged notorious Mexican mafia leader who has also been recently charged in an indictment and is apparently connected and associated in ordering the vicious beating of one of his own gang members. Now, apparently, this gang member was viciously disciplined for losing a rifle during a raid. Now, as we already know, it wasn't too long ago. Maybe it was 6 months ago, maybe a year ago, when authorities were conducting raids all throughout the harbor area, including the city of Wilmington. Authorities would go on to detain dozens of people. Now, going back to Sleepy, as I stated, this person has one of the most vicious of backgrounds. He was charged at the young age of 18 for viciously stabbing a man to death. He would go on to be released just 4 years later. And personally, I think that is the reason why people kill over and over again, or perhaps why people go on to reoffend. It is because they are given such a short sentence, or perhaps they only serve a few years of their sentence. I mean, come on, seriously, 4 years for a stabbing crime, for a stabbing homicide? That is a intimate homicide. One thing is to shoot someone, and one thing is to stab someone. Anyhow, carrying forward, now this is something that you rarely or don't hear at all, and that is mobsters indulging of the business of selling women. You don't hear that at all. However, when one of the men failed to pay one of Sleepy's funeral workers, he didn't pay the entire amount. Sleepy would seek revenge and shoot the man with a shotgun and taking his life over $4. It was documented that he said it wasn't the $4 that affected him. It was the disrespect behind it that he could not tolerate. He was initially sentenced to life without the possibility of parole, but due to appeals, he was able to drop his case to 17 years to life. It was also documented in his board hearing that he was the main suspect in the murder of his cellmate. But for some apparent reason, this individual did not get charged for this case. Now, the person that he murdered, his cellmate, authorities believe is another Mexican mafia member himself out of the city of La Puente who went by the name of Nico. Now, apparently he was killed just for becoming a little too religious and for having some sort of relationship with the warden at the prison. He would go on to be murdered at Tehachapi. However, as I just stated, they were not charging for this murder. Now, that in itself trips me out so much. It trips me out so much because I could only go on to imagine the amounts of people that have been murdered in the California prison system. But for some reason, they didn't want to pick up the case. Why? Because the person is already serving life. It's just a huge waste of money. Why spend tens of thousands of taxpayers' money to charge this individual for murder when he's already serving two murder sentences? He's already serving two hot beefs. You know what I'm saying? Why charge this individual? So can you only imagine the amounts of murders that have just been tossed away? They were never charged. And this is one of them. Anyhow, just when you think that that would be enough, no, of course not. This person is also being charged with facilitating a large transaction deal. Now, apparently he was introduced to a federal informant over the phone through the app WhatsApp. Now, a lot of drug dealers out there use the app WhatsApp, trying to conduct these deals thinking that's anonymous. However, I can tell you right now, it is not anonymous at all. Now, this individual was introduced to a federal informant on WhatsApp. He would go on to make this, drug transaction deal with another member called El Borracho out of Wilmington. Now, this individual Borracho out of Wilmington, he himself is serving a 54-year prison sentence for murdering his wife. Now, between El Borracho and Sleepy, they would go on to conduct these large drug transactions. One of the transactions just happened to include a federal informant, and now they're wrapped up in an indictment. It's just that easy. It's just that quick to find yourself up, caught up in the mix. So these two people are in prison, and man, I can only imagine the amounts of money that they're making these large transaction deals all behind bars. Now, the person that delivered the $5,000 worth of product, he has since been charged. He's going to prison. He's getting sent away. It's always like that, man. You're just a fall person. You know what I'm saying? There's dozens of you. There's another one that's ready to replace him by tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? So, wow, that's just a little snippet, just a little insight of what goes on inside this treacherous world. You know, I would also like to go ahead and say this. This is just what's on the surface. Of course, this individual has such a notorious history, such a notorious background, and we will never know the real history of it. Only the people who are really knee deep in the mud, who are really connected. I'm not talking about some YouTuber who thinks they have a connection because they're talking to some 18-year-old kid. I'm talking people who really served 20, 30, 40 years inside the prison sentence. People who really served 12, 15, 20 years inside the shoe. People who are really associated, people who are really connected. Those are the people who are only gonna know what's really going on.